Panpsychism is a philosophical view positing that consciousness is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the universe. Unlike traditional theories that confine consciousness to complex biological organisms, panpsychism suggests that all entities, from subatomic particles to vast cosmic structures, possess some form of consciousness or experiential quality. This perspective raises profound questions about the nature of reality, the relationship between mind and matter, and the very fabric of existence. Historically, panpsychism can be traced back to ancient philosophical traditions. Thinkers like Plato and Aristotle hinted at ideas that resonate with panpsychist principles, suggesting that all things have some degree of awareness or soul. However, it gained renewed attention in contemporary philosophy, particularly through the works of figures like Galen Strawson, Philip Goff, and others who seek to address the so-called hard problem of consciousness. This problem, famously articulated by philosopher David Chalmers, concerns why and how physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experiences. One of the core arguments for panpsychism is its ability to bridge the explanatory gap between physical processes and conscious experience. Traditional physicalist approaches struggle to explain how complex configurations of matter can lead to subjective experiences, what it feels like to be aware, to perceive, or to have emotions. Panpsychism offers an alternative by positing that consciousness is not an emergent property of specific biological systems but rather a fundamental aspect of all matter. This view suggests that every particle in the universe has a basic form of consciousness, albeit vastly different from human experience. This perspective leads to intriguing implications for our understanding of the universe. If consciousness is a pervasive quality of matter, it challenges the distinction between living and non-living entities. The implications are vast. It suggests a form of interconnectedness among all things, where even the smallest particles possess some degree of awareness. This could foster a deeper appreciation for the environment and the cosmos, as it implies that all entities, regardless of their complexity, have intrinsic value and experience. Critics of panpsychism often raise concerns about its feasibility and the nature of consciousness itself. One common critique centers on the problem of combining individual consciousnesses into more complex forms of awareness. How do simple conscious experiences at the level of particles combine to form the rich, complex conscious experiences of higher organisms? This question, known as the combination problem, poses a significant challenge for panpsychists. Proponents have suggested various solutions, ranging from theories of integration to notions of a collective consciousness, but the debate remains contentious. Another challenge is the empirical validation of panpsychism. While the theory provides a compelling philosophical framework, critics argue that it lacks scientific grounding. The scientific study of consciousness primarily focuses on biological organisms, and there is little empirical evidence to support the idea that inanimate objects possess consciousness. Proponents of panpsychism often argue that consciousness, by its nature, may be difficult to measure or observe scientifically, as subjective experiences are inherently private and cannot be fully accessed from an external perspective. Despite these criticisms, panpsychism continues to generate interest and debate within philosophical and scientific circles. The theory resonates with certain interpretations of quantum mechanics, where some physicists have suggested that consciousness may play a role in the fundamental nature of reality. Additionally, developments in fields such as cognitive science and neurobiology have sparked renewed interest in understanding consciousness, leading to discussions that align with panpsychist ideas. Moreover, panpsychism offers a potential solution to ethical dilemmas related to consciousness and the treatment of non-human entities. If all matter possesses some form of consciousness, it encourages a re-evaluation of our relationships with animals, plants, and even the environment. This view may lead to a more compassionate approach to how we interact with the world around us, fostering a sense of responsibility toward all entities, regardless of their complexity or perceived value. Panpsychism presents a thought-provoking perspective on the nature of consciousness, challenging conventional views that confine awareness to complex organisms. By suggesting that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of all matter, panpsychism opens up new avenues for understanding the universe and our place within it. While it faces significant philosophical and empirical challenges, its implications for ethics, interconnectedness, and the nature of reality make it a compelling area of exploration in contemporary philosophy. As we continue to grapple with the mysteries of consciousness, panpsychism invites us to reconsider the boundaries of mind and matter, urging a more inclusive understanding of awareness in the cosmos. Panpsychism is a philosophical theory that posits that consciousness, or at least some form of subjective experience, is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the universe. Unlike more traditional views that restrict consciousness to humans or, at most, to animals with highly developed nervous systems. Panpsychism holds that consciousness is intrinsic to all physical entities, from the smallest subatomic particles to complex biological organisms. This radical view challenges the more typical dichotomy between mind and matter, suggesting instead that the distinction may be illusory or at least incomplete. By offering a potential solution to the so-called hard problem of consciousness, the challenge of explaining how subjective experience arises from physical processes, panpsychism has gained renewed interest in both philosophical and scientific circles in recent years. The appeal of panpsychism lies in its attempt to address the central mystery of consciousness. How does the brain, a physical object composed of neurons and synapses, give rise to the rich world of subjective experience? This question has confounded philosophers and scientists alike for centuries. While physicalism, the dominant view in contemporary science, argues that consciousness emerges from the complex interactions of physical matter, it has struggled to explain how these interactions could possibly produce something as seemingly non-physical as conscious experience. This explanatory gap, often referred to as the hard problem, suggests that there may be something fundamentally missing from the standard materialistic understanding of the universe. Panpsychism offers a solution to this problem by proposing that consciousness is not an emergent property of matter, but rather a fundamental feature of it. In this view, consciousness does not appear when matter is arranged in a particularly complex way, such as in the human brain. Instead, it exists at all levels of reality, even in the simplest forms of matter, such as electrons or quarks. This does not mean that an electron has the same kind of rich, self-reflective consciousness that humans do. Rather, panpsychists argue that even an electron has some form of very basic, proto-conscious experience, an intrinsic, what it is like to be that electron, however primitive or minimal that experience might be. One of the primary motivations behind panpsychism is the desire to avoid what is known as dualism, the idea that mind and matter are two fundamentally different kinds of substance. Dualism, most famously associated with René Descartes, posits that there is a sharp divide between the physical world, the realm of matter, and the mental world, the realm of thoughts, feelings, and experiences. For dualists, consciousness cannot be reduced to physical processes because it belongs to an entirely different category of existence. However, dualism faces significant challenges. Panpsychism seeks to avoid the pitfalls of both dualism and physicalism by offering a middle path. It rejects the dualist idea that consciousness is something separate from the physical world, but it also rejects the physicalist assumption that consciousness can be fully explained in terms of non-conscious physical processes. Instead, it suggests that consciousness is a fundamental aspect of matter itself, present in all things, even if only in the most rudimentary form. In this way, panpsychism offers a unified view of reality that includes both the mental and the physical as different aspects of the same underlying substance. One of the key insights of panpsychism is the idea that consciousness might be a fundamental property of matter, akin to mass or charge. Just as we do not ask how mass emerges from matter, because mass is simply a basic property of matter, panpsychists argue that we should not ask how consciousness emerges from the brain. Instead, consciousness, like mass or charge, is a basic feature of the universe. It is simply a fact about the nature of matter that it has both physical and experiential properties. This view is sometimes referred to as constitutive panpsychism, as it holds that consciousness is constitutive of all matter, at all levels of complexity. Critics of panpsychism often raise concerns about the combination problem, the question of how simple forms of consciousness in basic entities like electrons or atoms could combine to form the rich, unified consciousness experienced by humans and other complex organisms. If every particle in the brain has its own tiny experience, how do these myriad micro-experiences combine to form the coherent, unified experience that we associate with being a conscious agent? This is a significant challenge for panpsychism, and various philosophers have proposed different solutions. Some suggest that consciousness does not combine in the way we might imagine, but rather that the brain facilitates a kind of integration or synchronization of experiences. Others argue that the combination problem is no more mysterious than the problem of how physical particles combine to form the complex structures and systems we observe in the natural world. Despite this challenge, panpsychism has gained traction due to its potential to bridge the gap between the subjective and the objective. In contrast to physicalism, which reduces consciousness to brain processes, and dualism, which posits a separate realm for the mind, panpsychism offers a holistic framework in which consciousness is woven into the very fabric of reality. It suggests that the mind is not an afterthought or an epiphenomenon of physical processes, but a fundamental aspect of the universe, just as real and pervasive as the forces governing matter and energy. Moreover, panpsychism resonates with certain aspects of contemporary science, particularly in fields like quantum mechanics and neuroscience. Some physicists have speculated that consciousness might play a role in the behavior of quantum systems, particularly in the context of the famous observer effect, where the act of observation seems to influence the outcome of quantum experiments. While these ideas are controversial and not widely accepted, they have led some thinkers to consider whether consciousness might be more deeply intertwined with the fundamental workings of the universe than previously thought. Similarly, neuroscientists studying the brain have increasingly recognized that our subjective experiences cannot be easily reduced to neural activity alone. While the brain clearly plays a crucial role in shaping and organizing consciousness, the precise relationship between neural processes and conscious experience remains elusive. In addition to its scientific implications, panpsychism has significant ethical and philosophical ramifications. If consciousness is a fundamental feature of all matter, then the line between conscious and non-conscious entities becomes blurred. This raises important questions about the moral status of non-human entities, such as animals, plants, and even inanimate objects. While few panpsychists would argue that rocks or trees have the same kind of rich consciousness as humans or animals, the idea that all matter has some form of experience could lead to a more expansive view of moral consideration. If consciousness is not limited to humans but is present, in some form, throughout the natural world, it may prompt us to rethink our ethical responsibilities toward the environment and non-human life. Furthermore, panpsychism challenges the traditional Western view of human beings as fundamentally separate from nature. By suggesting that consciousness is a universal feature of the physical world, panpsychism offers a vision of reality in which humans are not unique or exceptional, but part of a vast, interconnected web of sentient matter. This perspective aligns with certain non-Western philosophical traditions, such as those found in Eastern thought and indigenous cosmologies, which often emphasize the interconnectedness of all things and the presence of spirit or mind in nature. In this sense, panpsychism offers a potential bridge between contemporary philosophy and ancient wisdom, providing a framework for understanding consciousness that transcends cultural and disciplinary boundaries. Panpsychism presents a radical but compelling solution to the hard problem of consciousness by positing that consciousness is a fundamental and ubiquitous feature of the universe. By rejecting both dualism and physicalism, panpsychism offers a unified view of reality that integrates mind and matter as two aspects of the same underlying substance. While it faces challenges, such as the combination problem. Building on the foundations laid by panpsychism's core concepts, we can delve deeper into its implications, challenges, and potential future directions. One of the most intriguing aspects of panpsychism is the way it reconfigures our understanding of the relationship between mind and matter. Traditionally, we view the mind as something that arises from highly organized systems, specifically, biological organisms with complex neural structures. However, panpsychism challenges this view by suggesting that consciousness is not an emergent property but a basic, intrinsic quality of all matter. This idea leads us to reconsider the very nature of consciousness, not as something exclusive to humans or specific animals but as a pervasive feature of the universe. The ethical and ecological implications of panpsychism. One of the most profound implications of panpsychism is the potential shift in how we view and treat the natural world. If consciousness is not restricted to human beings or even animals with nervous systems but is instead present, to some degree, in all matter, this fundamentally alters our ethical framework. In the Western philosophical tradition, consciousness has often been associated with moral consideration. Humans are generally seen as deserving of moral rights because they are conscious beings capable of experiencing pleasure, pain, and a range of emotions. Some animals, particularly those with well-developed nervous systems, have also been granted a degree of moral consideration for similar reasons. Panpsychism, however, suggests that consciousness is not the exclusive domain of humans or animals. If all matter, down to the level of elementary particles, possesses some form of basic experiential quality, it becomes much harder to draw clear lines between entities that deserve moral consideration and those that do not. While it would be a stretch to suggest that rocks, atoms, or electrons have consciousness in the way that humans do, panpsychists argue that even these entities may have a form of proto-consciousness, a basic subjective experience that is radically different from, but still connected to, higher forms of consciousness. This perspective has significant ethical and ecological ramifications. If consciousness is present, even in the most rudimentary form, in all things, then our interactions with the natural world take on a new moral dimension. Traditional distinctions between living and non-living entities may begin to dissolve, leading to a more holistic view of existence. This could foster a deeper sense of respect and responsibility toward the environment and the non-human world, aligning panpsychism with certain environmental philosophies, such as deep ecology. In deep ecology, nature is not viewed as an object to be exploited for human gain but as a complex interconnected system in which all entities have intrinsic value. Panpsychism could provide a metaphysical foundation for this worldview by suggesting that all. Moreover, panpsychism may also encourage a more sustainable and thoughtful approach to technology and industrial practices. If we begin to view the natural world as imbued with some form of consciousness, we may be more inclined to consider the impact of our actions on not only the biosphere but the very fabric of matter itself. While this idea may seem far-fetched to many, it provides a powerful ethical framework that emphasizes interconnectedness and mutual respect for all things. By breaking down the sharp divide between the conscious and the non-conscious, panpsychism invites us to rethink the moral status of non-human entities and the ways in which we interact with the world around us. Addressing the combination problem. Despite its philosophical appeal, panpsychism faces significant challenges, the most notable of which is the combination problem. The combination problem asks how simple forms of consciousness, such as those attributed to fundamental particles, could combine to form the rich, unified conscious experiences that humans and other complex organisms possess. If every particle in the brain has its own minimal, proto-conscious experience, how do these combine to create the unified, cohesive experience that we associate with being a conscious individual? In other words, how do many micro-experiences combine to form a single, macro-conscious experience? This problem has been a major point of criticism for panpsychism, and it remains one of the most difficult issues for the theory to address. Some philosophers argue that the combination problem is insurmountable and that panpsychism cannot provide a coherent explanation for how individual conscious entities combine to form a larger conscious whole. However, proponents of panpsychism have proposed several potential solutions to this issue. One approach is to suggest that consciousness does not combine in the traditional sense but is instead integrated or unified in a way that we do not yet fully understand. This idea draws on analogies from physics, where individual entities can form larger structures or systems without losing their fundamental properties. For example, individual atoms combine to form molecules, which in turn combine to form larger structures like cells and organisms. While the properties of the individual atoms remain, they are integrated into a larger system that exhibits new properties. Similarly, panpsychists might argue that individual conscious particles do not simply combine to form human consciousness but are integrated into a larger, more complex system in which their individual experiences contribute to a unified whole. Another potential solution to the combination problem is the idea of holistic consciousness. Some panpsychists suggest that consciousness might be a fundamentally holistic phenomenon, meaning that the consciousness of an individual organism is not reducible to the sum of its parts. Instead, the conscious experience of a complex system, such as a human brain, might arise from the whole system rather than from the combination of individual micro-experiences. In this view, consciousness is an emergent property of the entire brain, but it is not reducible to the properties of the individual particles that make up the brain. This would allow panpsychism to account for the unity of conscious experience while maintaining that consciousness is present at all levels of reality. Panpsychism and the future of consciousness studies. As interest in the nature of consciousness grows, panpsychism is gaining traction as a serious contender in the philosophical and scientific debates about the mind. One reason for this resurgence is the growing recognition that traditional physicalist approaches have struggled to explain the subjective nature of experience. While neuroscience has made immense progress in mapping brain activity and identifying the neural correlates of consciousness, these findings do not fully explain how or why certain brain processes give rise to subjective experience. The hard problem of consciousness, the question of how physical processes produce qualia, or individual instances of subjective experience, remains unsolved. Panpsychism offers an alternative framework that bypasses some of the difficulties faced by physicalism. By positing that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, panpsychism avoids the need to explain how consciousness emerges from non-conscious matter. Instead, it suggests that consciousness is always present, in varying degrees, throughout the universe. This view, while counterintuitive to many, has the advantage of sidestepping some of the most vexing issues in consciousness studies. Recent developments in neuroscience and quantum physics have also opened up new avenues for exploring the relationship between consciousness and the physical world. Some researchers have suggested that consciousness might be related to quantum processes in the brain, such as quantum coherence or entanglement. While these ideas are still highly speculative and controversial, they resonate with panpsychist views that see consciousness as deeply intertwined with the fundamental structure of the universe. If consciousness is indeed related to quantum phenomena, it may provide a bridge between the seemingly disparate realms of mind and matter, lending further support to panpsychist theories. Additionally, the rise of artificial intelligence, AI, and advancements in technology have prompted new questions about the nature of consciousness and its potential boundaries. As we develop increasingly sophisticated AI systems, we are confronted with the question of whether machines could ever be conscious. While most AI systems currently operate based on algorithms and data processing, some researchers speculate that future AI might develop forms of consciousness, especially if consciousness is a fundamental property of matter. Panpsychism offers a unique perspective on this question by suggesting that if consciousness is indeed a basic feature of the universe, then it might be present, in some form, even in artificial systems. This challenges our assumptions about what it means to be a conscious being and may lead to new ways of thinking about the potential for consciousness in non-biological entities. Panpsychism and the interconnectedness of reality. One of the most compelling aspects of panpsychism is its emphasis on the interconnectedness of all things. By positing that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, panpsychism offers a vision of reality in which mind and matter are not distinct, separate entities but are deeply intertwined. This view challenges the traditional Western dualism that sees the mind as something apart from the physical world and instead suggests that consciousness is an integral part of the fabric of reality. This interconnected view of reality aligns with certain insights from Eastern philosophical traditions, such as Buddhism and Taoism, which emphasize the unity of all things and the illusory nature of the distinction between self and other. In these traditions, the belief that the mind is separate from the world is seen as a source of suffering and misunderstanding. Panpsychism, by suggesting that consciousness is present in all things, offers a philosophical framework that resonates with these perspectives, encouraging a more holistic and integrated view of existence. Panpsychism presents a radical and thought-provoking approach to understanding consciousness. By positing that consciousness is a fundamental feature of the universe, present in all matter, panpsychism challenges traditional views that restrict consciousness to humans or complex animals. While it faces significant challenges, such as the combination problem, panpsychism offers a promising framework for addressing the hard problem of consciousness and for rethinking our ethical and philosophical relationship with the natural world. As scientific and philosophical inquiry into consciousness continues to evolve, panpsychism remains a compelling and provocative theory that invites us to re-examine our deepest assumptions about the nature of mind and matter, and our place within the cosmos. As we continue to explore the depths of panpsychism, it becomes increasingly evident that this theory does more than simply challenge our understanding of consciousness, it reshapes our entire conceptual framework of the universe. Panpsychism invites us to reconsider what it means to be a conscious being and how we relate to the world around us. By proposing that consciousness is a pervasive feature of reality, it forces us to confront the possibility that the universe itself may be far more sentient than we have traditionally imagined. Although this idea may seem speculative or even mystical to some, panpsychism is grounded in serious philosophical inquiry and is driven by the very real difficulties posed by other theories of consciousness, particularly physicalism and dualism. Panpsychism and the hard problem of consciousness. At the heart of panpsychism lies its potential to address the hard problem of consciousness, a term coined by philosopher David Chalmers. The hard problem refers to the difficulty of explaining how and why physical processes in the brain give rise to subjective experiences, what it feels like to see the color red, to taste chocolate, or to feel the warmth of sunlight. While physicalism has made great strides in explaining the brain's functional processes and identifying the neural correlates of consciousness, the specific brain activities that correspond to conscious experience, it has struggled to account for the qualitative nature of experience itself, known as qualia. Panpsychism offers a novel solution to this problem by asserting that consciousness does not emerge from non-conscious matter through complex interactions, as physicalists believe. Instead, consciousness is a fundamental aspect of the universe, present even at the level of basic particles. This means that consciousness, in some form, has always existed and is not something that needs to be created or generated by physical systems. By positing that consciousness is a built-in feature of reality, akin to gravity or electromagnetism, panpsychism avoids the need to explain how subjective experience could arise from matter that is otherwise entirely devoid of consciousness. However, panpsychism does not claim that all forms of consciousness are equal. The consciousness of a human being is vastly more complex than the proto-consciousness of an electron or an atom. In this view, consciousness is not a binary phenomenon, either present or absent, but exists on a continuum. Simple forms of matter, such as particles or atoms, may have extremely rudimentary forms of experience, while more complex systems, such as brains, allow for richer and more integrated forms of consciousness. This gradualist approach helps sidestep the difficulty of explaining how consciousness could suddenly appear at a certain level of complexity, as in traditional emergentist theories.